is doing to connect other women with other women making great strides in business. So right out of the gates, anyone out there who's interested in Ladyboss or Ladybossblogger, I do encourage you to check out the website. So your story, I mean, really, really, really impactful. Why don't you start us back from when this began, and sort of what inspired you to take action in this way, in the way that you chose to take action? Take us back there.
Yeah, honestly, I had never had any aspirations to, be a lady boss, to be a blogger, even to any of that. It was totally circumstantial. So, I mean, I was working in the wedding industry. I loved the wedding industry. I loved my job. I loved everything about it. But everything changed one day when my fiance called from overseas and he told me that his brother had just been murdered. And so I immediately asked my boss if I could go attend the funeral and be there with his family. And his answer surprised me. He said no, because it would affect sales, because I was the, sales director. And so obviously, I mean, he put me in a predicament where I had to choose family and career. And of course, family would always, prevail. So I quit, I packed up my bags, and I moved to Honduras the next day. And the transition was a lot harder than I anticipated. It was a very spontaneous move. It was very out of the blue. And I mean, honestly, like, I'm kind of a workaholic. So like my job was my life, I didn't have anything else. And so moving there, I was like, what am I supposed to do? Not only was I jobless, I was also purposeless, and I was also passionless. All like my wedding industry skills and sales skill set made no sense in a developing country. In addition to that, I didn't speak Spanish. So even, with my sales skills, I couldn't do anything with it. So I had to learn how to reinvent myself, and I had to learn how to come up with a way to, make money somehow. So I started a blog. And actually the reason I started the blog was because as a stress reliever when I was in the wedding industry, I worked for a blogger on the side. So I was, I would do, run her press events. It was all for free. I literally just did it as a creative outlet because instead of being in sales all day. And so I attributed blogging to a feeling of bliss and a feeling of freedom and creativity and just almost like power, and so I wanted to blog, not to necessarily make money, but honestly to document my feelings and to document like what I was going through, as well as to learn from other women how they did what they did and how they're achieving what they, and so basically it was also my way of communicating with the outside world of, you know what I mean? Like communicating with other women. So I wouldn't feel so isolated in Honduras. So that's kind of how it all started.
There's so much yumminess in what you just talked about. And the first thing that really came to mind was how brave you were to make that choice, to stand up to your boss that said, okay, that's your response. No, I can't go. Well, this is, I guess that's the decision. This is over, and I'm going to be with my family. Because what I see there, not only is that very courageous, but you acted in alignment with your values. And I'm sure at the time when you made that choice, you weren't asking yourself, am I acting in alignment with my values? Right? You don't do that.
Right.
But it's a feeling, and it's a sense. You can tell that wow, that doesn't feel right. What just happened to me, that conversation, that does not feel right. And the reason I bring this up is because this is the beginning of your story as it relates to Ladybossblogger.com. And I think it's a really, really important thing to talk about, because there are people that I meet every single day who have that feeling. They might not label it misalignment, but they've got that feeling that something's not right, and they actually don't know how to even explore that.
Yeah. And honestly, when I was out of the situation, I realized that I was actually in a very verbally abusive work environment without even knowing, because I was blinded by my drive and my passion for the job,
right.
So, going to work, having my ideas bashed down all the time. And then, so for me, I would always think I'm doing something wrong. So how can I get better? But I could never reach that point. I was climbing a losing battle or a sinking mountain, so yeah.
And it is interesting that when you when you can remove yourself from any situation, you can see that
Like
you
the
can have
clarity that you
clarity,
get.
right? You know, when you're right on in it, I think it doesn't matter what kind of situation you're talking about, work situation, a relationship. It's really noisy when you're in it, right?
Yeah.
And then you remove yourself, or you can create a moment of stillness, which I think is a really important aspect of well-being. And to actually have a kick-ass life is to create moments of stillness, so you can hear those whispers of your soul, right? So you know when you're doing something that feels
and I think
good.
honestly, I mean, and that's exactly.
Like, go ahead. We're like so excited to talk about this.
No, I think you're like, it's lagging a little bit, so I'm like talking over you. But yeah, I mean, stillness is how Ladybossblogger started. You know, from such a busy life to like having nothing to do. You know, like all I could do was just, you know, be in my own mind and like basically create something, you know, out of nothing, so to speak. But I feel like honestly, yeah, like I had to be still in order to even dive down deep and think like, what is it do I truly want to create, and what do I want to do with all my free time right now? So yeah.
I was just looking around for those who are watching the video as opposed to listening. I was just looking around because I've got this book that had a quote in it that I wanted to quote. And it's a Rumi quote, and I can't recall it off the top of my head. But, you know, in a few powerful words, he talked about the power of stillness. And that's really where creativity is born, and ideas, and really that's where it gives you the opportunity for your soul to speak. So you were mentioning when at the very beginning of our conversation that you found yourself, and I found this was really striking to me, and it sort of like hit me right in the heart. You said you found yourself purposeless and passionless. And I understand why. You described it really, really well, but holy shit, that's heavy. Like to say those two things, that's, I can see absolutely why that would be the case. So, you know, I'd really love to hear a little bit about how you started. You know, you said you started exploring the blogging because you've been doing some of that as a creative outlet when you were working still as a wedding planner. Tell us a little bit about how that started to create a sense of purpose for you, and then and how that was just further fueled.
Yeah. So I wanted to learn about who I wanted to become, which is why I started interviewing other women, because I knew that like I wanted to learn from other women, because women in business do things differently. And actually the reason why I even knew about entrepreneurship and all this stuff was because the year prior, same thing, I was living in Chicago in the city, and I started meeting all these entrepreneurs, but every single entrepreneur that I met and that I hung out with was a man. And I was like, where's all the female entrepreneurs at, you know? Because like I started learning so much from them. I started learning their point of, you know, their perspective, their worldview, their how they lived, how much money they were making. And I was like, hold on, why aren't more people doing this? And what is this? Because I come from a family of professors, you know, like, I mean, it's very linear, very academic, very, I just thought you get a job and then you retire and then you die. You know, like I didn't know what else there was, you know? And so learning from them, and then like basically, yeah, like having the time to recreate myself, I was like, I want that, you know, whatever they had. But as I said, I want to learn it from women. And so, yeah, so I started reaching out, interviewing women. And then about a week in, I was like, you know what, like I'm spending so much time on this. It was only a weekend, but like, you know, when you have nothing else to do, it's a lot of time. So I was like, man, I need to start making money somehow. You know, I don't know how to do it. And I was like, you know what, maybe I'll try to like see if like people are willing to pay me to get featured. And so I was like, I reached out to 100 women, and then 10 women got back to me, and then one woman agreed to pay me $5 to get featured on my brand new baby blog. And I was like, oh my God, I took that as a sign, and I just like ran with it. And that's how it all originally started. Now, obviously there's different income streams of different, you know, but that was how it all began, was basically just reaching out to a bunch of people, seeing if, you know, the idea was viable, and it was, you know, and so that's kind of how it all grew.
I love that. So thanks so much for sharing all of that. It's really easy to go to anyone's website. I'm going to use yours as an example because it's a beautiful website. And you have lots of free content. You've got lots of courses. You've got lots of ways to engage and support female entrepreneurs. It's really easy to go there and think, oh, wow, I can't do this. I wouldn't know where to start. Well, you didn't start here, right? You started right where you just commented on, with those emails out to 100 women and getting $5 for that first profile, and it evolved from there.
Yeah. And
so,
actually that first profile, her motto was failure is not an option. And so I was like, oh, this is another sign.
How amazing, and what a great story. I think those things I think they are signs. You know, it wasn't until, so I come from a very academic background as well. While different than your parents, my dad is a nuclear physicist. And so, I mean, that's just science all the way. It is not true until it is what has been 100% proven by through science. And so I grew up that way, and it wasn't until, I mean, it was a series of events, life events, and having met different people and taken different kinds of courses along the way. But it got to a point where by the time I was 40, I'm like, there's still something else. There's something more than science. And so I very reluctantly, and I hope my dad's not listening right now, but I very reluctantly have been exploring, the essence of the soul. And I really believe that you can marry science and soul. And I use that very much as part of my coaching philosophy, because my degree is in biology. I'm very rooted in positive psychology and principles of positive psychology, which again is a kind of science. And yet there's something more. There's something.
Have you read my father's book? He's actually a biologist, and he wrote Mapping the Origins Debate.
Oh, no. I would love to check. I want to check that out, though.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like like what you're talking about. I haven't read it,
Shout out to Elaine's dad.
Yeah.
You'll have to send me the name of the book. Yeah, and I want to include it in the show notes as well. So those listening, your Elaine's website, which is pretty easy, but in case you forget, ladybossblogger.com will also be in the show notes, and anything else that we reference, I'll put in the show notes as well, so you can access it easily. That's cool. No, I really finally found, like I was saying, at the age of 40, wow, I can design my own existence, my own life, my own future. Who do I want to be, and what pieces do I put together, and what does that look like? And so for me, that became science and soul. Anyway, so I was as a bit of a tangent, but I find that, it's an interesting way that we can continue to evolve, and we do continue to evolve as a human being on this earth, and it doesn't end. You don't just arrive at adulthood and that's it. Here you are. It continues. And
I think that's like something that I actually tell my students a lot, is basically, it's never about the product. It is, but actually you should be focused on the process, because 99% of the time you're going to be in process mode. And so I feel like so often we focus on the product, like achieving XYZ, whatever, but it's very flippant to feeling, like you achieve it, you're just like, all right, and then you crash, so if you're focused on that, your crash is going to be harder, and it's going to be harder to get back up because you're constantly being like this, versus if you're like focused on the process, then you're like, all right, got it. And so that's kind of like what I like to, tell my students, is just like focus. Like if you don't like the process, you're never going to like the product.
Yeah.
Because
you're losing.
Exactly.
If you don't like the process, you're losing. And I found that out after I finished university, because not only did I not like the process, I didn't like the product either. But anyway, it's all part, again, that is still all part of the process.
Exactly.
Have you read Michelle Obama's book, Becoming?
I have not, but it's definitely on my list.
Okay, so actually, full disclosure, I've not read it either. But I know I just said that.
You read the Cliff Notes, so it works.
It is on my list of books to read, but I have a few I need to get through before I purchase another book, because I just made that commitment to myself that I have to finish a few more before I buy a new one. Anyway, I did on the when I was running on the treadmill one day, listen to Oprah's interview with Michelle Obama about her book. And so any listeners who prefer to listen than to read, I highly recommend the interview, because obviously, I mean, Oprah is just an incredible person, and it's an engaging sort of dialogue as opposed to just an audible version of the book, an audio version of the book. And so she talks about, as the name of the book suggests, you don't arrive, you continue to become. Life is about a process of becoming. Mm-hmm. She says it so beautifully, and you spoke to that as well when you said that you wanted to learn from other female entrepreneurs about who you wanted to become. So I felt like I needed to ask you if you had read the book.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you brought up Oprah, actually. A comment on her is basically, I mean, if you think about Oprah, she's seen as the expert, the influencer, like the everything. However, what exactly like did she expert in? She just interviewed other women. That's how she built her own platform, and then she kind of became did different ventures and stuff like that too. So I feel like a lot of people, when they're trying to start, they're like, well, I don't know what I'm good at. Like, I don't like. That's exactly how I started. I had no idea what I was good at. Like, but if you are a learner, just be a learner. If you're an expert, you could be an expert, but don't like pretend that you're an expert when you're not. Simply learn from other women, elevate them, highlight them. And it doesn't have to be women either, but like elevate other people, and you will succeed too. You know what I mean? So like, if people are looking at how to start, just start by interviewing other people.
Yeah, I think it's just like you were saying, how you got started, even on your blog. Just start, and that sounds so basic, but it really is that simple. Just start. Mm-hmm. And then when you are open to pay attention to how things are going through the process, what feels right and what doesn't feel right. Do more of what feels right. Do less of what doesn't feel right. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I realize that sometimes it is about paying the bills, but and so things, you can do stuff alongside the day job while you start to explore what you want to do more of and what you want to do less of. That's that's a lot of pretty basic elements, yet I feel a lot of women that I speak to, again, when I was talking about get noisy, that the head's really noisy, and overwhelmed with all of the stuff that we have to do professionally and business-wise and personally. It's hard to quiet and ask some basic questions. Okay, so I want to just turn the conversation a little bit, and I'd like to get advice from you, or what advice would you offer for female listeners looking for a mentor? So you said that you sent. I realize this was for your blog, but you sent a message out to 100 women. Where did you even get them from? Help an individual understand that where they would start to find that list.
Good question. All hashtags, actually. I just did hashtag female entrepreneur, hashtag boss babe, hashtag, all those different, hashtags, and basically found women that inspired me, that I wanted to learn from, that was like a few steps ahead of me, that could offer something of value to me, and as well as the audience. So basically Instagram.
Yeah.
Or you can also do it online too. Google is also a great resource.
And so what did you ask? What would they ask? So someone looking for a mentor, we've got a young professional looking for a female mentor. How would you recommend that they approach someone? So they find someone, they've got the hashtags, they found the people, they've got a handful of people, like, yeah, these people would just, I really align with them.
Yeah. The number one thing that I would seek out in a mentor is that they are on, if not the exact same path, but relatively similar path that you want to be on. They've achieved what you want to achieve. They're basically like 5 steps ahead of you. And so not only can they see, what to prepare for, they can also see what to look out for, all these different things. So I would say a good way to do it is to basically intern for them if they offer internships, or if you have the funds, you know, pay them, you know, to be your mentor. You know, I mean, different people operate differently. Some, you know, some people, you know, they want to get into corporate America, then it'll be more of a mentorship. If you want to get into entrepreneurship, it's probably more of a paid thing. But as I said, internships is like the way to do it. I feel like I learned everything from internships too. You know, I mean, that's how I started blogging. Not because I wanted to necessarily start my own thing, but like, that's how you explore. That's how you learn about what you want. Like, that's what a mentor is for, right? To learn about what you want to become potentially. And if you do an internship and you don't like it, then you're like, okay, well, maybe let's try something else, you know. And I don't think there is ever a time where internships, you get too old or whatever. A lot of people are like, oh, but I don't feel like, you know, an internship is not really my thing. And I was like, think about it as a volunteer opportunity. You're volunteering your time to help someone else achieve their goals and their dreams. And then in turn, it will come back to you tenfold. Like, for the blogger that I worked for before. And then when I started my own blog and then she learned about it, she was like, oh my gosh, Elaine, like, you're doing so many cool things. Let me feature you. And she had 1 million followers. And so she blasted my blog. She put for free, you know, a little post on her sidebar for me, you know, just because I worked for her before. So like, it's all about relationships and building that. So if you can offer your mentor something that's of value, then boom, like, you're in.
And I think you struck on something really important, and that it's about a relationship. And so establishing that connection is really important. I think there are a lot of individuals, men and women, who want to lend a hand to others. So just asking someone is the first step. But focus, I really like to encourage others to be focusing on creating a connection. It's really, I'm sure you've been asked before, you get emails, and the emails with a direct ask without any kind of attempt to create a human connection, they kind of turn you off.
Yeah. And well, there's also two different kind of asks, where there is an ask where it's just an ask and they're like wanting like all your time for, and they're not offering anything, versus other people. Like, I have several actually of my fans who actually are my interns now, and they've brought me incredible value. They're so excited about my brand. They're so excited to promote, you know, Ladyboss Blog. They're like, you know, on my PR team and all that stuff. And it's so incredible to work with them. And then so once they branch off, you know, and do their own thing, oh yeah, for sure, I'm going to return the favor, you know? So there's one thing to like, just, I feel a lot of people just ask and they're not willing to give anything. And that's not how it works. It's not how it works. You have to value your mentor's time. If you want them to mentor you, you got to value their time, you know?
Yeah. And so I really just wanted to, you know, end that kind of, or wrap up that mentorship question with that, because I think that's a really important element. So now where you are in your life with the business that you've established and where it's at, what does success mean to you right now?
Success, honestly, I love having the freedom to be able to do what I want when I want. And it's not necessarily just like travel or whatever, which is awesome. But like, my father actually fell ill a few months ago, and I was the only one who could be able to just pick up and go and be there for him for a month, you know, take care of him, nurse him back to health, you know, whatever. And that was what was so incredibly impactful for me. And then like last month, we were able to spend a month in Honduras with my husband's family, and, you know, just be able to, you know, be there, work, travel, you know, whatever. So I feel like success is just having freedom over your own time and your schedule.
I think that is such an important piece. Yeah. I remember when I say I remember like it was a really long time ago. It was 3 years ago. but I was sort of redesigning how I wanted my life to be, which I don't think it has to be quite as stark, like such a contrast in one's life as it was for me, but it was. What you're saying, freedom of, you know, time, flexibility, and schedule, was of massive importance. And I think that many individuals have a really narrow view of what success means. And I had done that unintentionally. I had created this list in my head, which I didn't really know was a list in my head, that I wanted to get the degree, get the house, get the car, get the husband, get the kids, get a career established, and start to climb the ladder, until I woke up literally one day and I was like, what the hell? This is exactly what I planned, and it's not at all fulfilling.
Mm.
And that was, that was a hard recognition. That was hard to recognize that I had done that. I had created that. And so when I took that step back and, was looking at success, what does success mean to me? I looked at it through a much broader lens. And what you just shared is exactly what started to flow.
Mm-hmm. And I honestly, I kind of got it from an interview I saw with DJ Khaled. I don't know if you know. And he was talking about how he's like, I've reached like success, I'm on this other level. However, he's like, I was, working so hard, my health was being affected, and I wasn't able to spend time with my family. He's like, is this what success really is? And I was like, oh my goodness. If DJ Khaled said that, what's going on? So that's when I started recalibrating, and I was like, all right, I need to redefine success.
I love that though. I love that. Shout out to DJ Khaled, like he's listening.
Right. Who knows,
So let's explore this a little bit. So do you read? Do you listen to podcasts? Where do you continue to get information, inspiration, motivation to elevate your game?
Mm-hmm. I love Darren Rouse's Pro Blogger podcast. I think everyone should check it out, especially if you're trying to get into the blogger game. Honestly, he's just, his tips, his expertise, all this stuff. I recently found out about his podcast, and I've just been addicted. So definitely that. I get a lot of books to review, actually. So I always have a stack. It's downstairs. I don't even know what's on there right now, but I usually just go through them and then write like a post review, like 20 books that female entrepreneurs should read. After I go through all of them, and like, these are the ones I would select. But I think wait
a second. Tell me more about that. I want to do that. How does one get in? How did that happen?
I don't know. I just started receiving like email. I think they're all in communication with one another.
Yeah.
Cause I get books all the time. So I don't know. Maybe I'll research it and see who, because they're all from different people too. They're not like one company per se. Like they're all different publishers.
I think like any industry, kind of like you're talking about, bloggers, it's a relative, I say small, there's a lot of people doing it, but any industry has kind of got a tight knit core group of people that likely collaborate and talk, right?
I think there's not too many who like blog about business like I do.
Okay.
Like there are obviously, but like, I mean, beauty, fashion, those are a lot huger.
Yeah.
Huger? Is that a word? Whatever. So I think, I don't know, like, and I feel like once they know that you produce good content, they know that you actually read the books, they know, you know what I mean? Like, you just get a reputation and then people start reaching out to you. So
cool. I love that. I cut you off. We were talking about something. You were talking about, you've just been talking about podcasts where you get inspiration, motivation. You're just about to comment on a book, and I rudely interrupted you because I wanted to know.
No worries. I still remember what it is.
Okay.
It's called 5-Day Weekend. I think it's kind of a spin-off of 4-Day Work Week by Tim Ferriss. But this one's by Nick something, N-I-K, and it's called 5-Hour Work Week. And it just really changed my perspective on business. And, based on one quote from the book that really resonated with me was like, if you don't learn how to make money in your sleep, you will work until you die. And I was like, oh, that is so true, because my business model before was, doing these interviews, and I was like, that's not sustainable. I was working my butt off, just like constantly exchanging my time for dollars. And I was like, just being exhausted. And so that's when I started getting into online course creation and affiliate marketing and all these different things that actually wasn't a direct trade of my time.
Yeah. And I think, and that's a massive shift in business that we've seen compared to certainly how I was raised to be entering the workforce. I actually interviewed my dad on the show about a month or two ago. And that's something that, I know, he's just like the best. I mean, he has a lot of, he's got a lot of interesting experiences in leadership. And I wanted him to be sharing that because leadership, I think, is something that's very interesting for me, especially women in leadership. anyway, what was my dad saying that I wanted to convey? Oh, and it was really just, he even mentioned, I don't really think that we set you up for success sort of in this online world that we live in today. But, when you know better,
you
you
can't
do better.
anticipate that, though.
No.
I mean,
no, and there certainly was I have no parent blaming thing going on, and he wasn't looking at it with regret. It was just more reflection, right?
mm-hmm.
So to that point, I think books like what you're talking about, you said it's called The 5-Day Weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I think are really, really important for entrepreneurs to read. I'm a huge fan of Gary Vee, but sorry, Gary, because I know Gary's listening as well as DJ Khaled. That I don't think that you have to hustle. Gary Vee is very much about a hustler. And I think that it doesn't mean that I think that you can, that business will just happen overnight and with ease. It takes a lot of hard work. But to your point about making it work smartly for you, I think is like, that's the value of automation and tools, and allows you then to really connect with the people that you're wanting to connect with, both personally and professionally, instead of being stuck in all of the logistics of running a business and hustling.
Right. Working the business and creating for you instead of working for your business. Or
Absolutely.
what's the quote? Working on your business, not in your business.
Yes.
Somehow, yeah, that's right. I'm like making sure I got the
right way round.
Yes,
the right way round. We don't want anyone misquoting you, saying, "Well, Elaine said."
Right. No!
So, you've alluded to this, that we don't get anywhere alone, that we have lots of people who sort of support us and lift us along the way. While I know clearly you have had the dedication and the vision, and been the one doing the work, but who are some of those key people that have helped you along the way to get to where you are in your life and in your business?
I would say, honestly, I think the most transformational thing that has happened was actually a year into business. I was on a phone call with a business mentor. He wasn't like a full-time business mentor or whatever. He was like a friend of a friend that, was like, oh, you should talk to him. I was like, okay. So I was like telling him all my business ideas because he's a very successful businessman. And after I had poured out all of these things, he was like, so what? And I was like, excuse me, I just like poured out my heart, but okay. But he literally was like, so what? Who cares about all those ideas? Who are you? Like, how is your business helping the world? And I was like, well, I thought that, I'm helping female entrepreneurs, start, grow, launch their business. He's like, no, like outside of your family, outside of your friends, outside of, like the world, like as an entrepreneur, you're here to help the world. And so basically I started thinking about that. And I was thinking about, where did my blog originate? Why did I begin? Like all these, what are the goals? And it actually began on the grounds of the Micah Project. Now, what the Micah Project is actually, it's a charity that actually picked up my husband when he was a teenager on the streets. Mm-hmm. So this charity helps orphaned boys have a home, get education, housing, whatever. And so when I moved down to Honduras, he was actually working there, so he went back to work for them. And then we couldn't find a place yet, and so I actually stayed on the Micah campus, and that's where the blog actually started. And so after that, I was like, you know what, like that night, like I couldn't sleep, and I was like, I need to dedicate my blog to serving the Micah Project. And so now, like a bunch of the proceeds go to the Micah Project. And so this is like the way that, hopefully, trying to transform the world, just a little piece of the world at a time. So that's, I feel like that's transformed my why, that's transformed my purpose, that's transformed like just honestly everything, like if you're in business just to make money, it's a dead business. So yeah.
I love that, and I appreciate you sharing that. And it's funny that you mentioned that too, because I was struggling a little bit myself last year in understanding why I need to, the whole money story in my head. And I very much have an abundant mindset, but I was still struggling with some stuff in my head regarding money and business, in my business. And I went to a conference. It was a coaching conference in Hollywood, and there was this woman who was representing her nonprofit organization called Pearls with Purpose. And as soon as I chatted with her, I knew that that was the organization that I wanted to connect with. I mean, the more I make, the more I can help. And it's an organization sort of similar to what, kind of what you're talking about. It's an organization that helps women by giving them a hand up instead of a hand out. And so it provides them with an education, with business knowledge and skills in making jewelry that allow them to flee the abusive homes that they live in. And that's in India, Cambodia, and there's one other country. And so it's like, oh my goodness, that really just grounds the meaning. It gives purpose and meaning. It's not just the people that you're connecting with in helping them elevate their business, but that deeper meaning. And I have met many, many amazing men through my life. This is not meant to be critical of men, but I have to say, I meet more female leaders who are truly connected to the importance of this kind of alignment between greater global meaning and business.
Right, like a social enterprise versus just an enterprise. Yeah, actually, you should definitely look up Sudera. I've worked on several influencer campaigns with them. They're really similar to what you're talking about. They basically help at-risk women in India specifically get out of trafficking situations or whatever situations they're in, and they provide. They actually create clothing, so like jogger shorts, pants, different things like that. So maybe a good collaboration opportunity with
that. Thank you, and that sounds awesome. I absolutely will look that up, because I do believe that I'm a huge fan of quotes. You mentioned that I think earlier, but a rising tide lifts all boats. And I think the more that we can collaborate, the better everyone benefits. So during this time of reinvention that you found yourself in, you were also you were young now, but you were younger then. I think so I admire you. I absolutely admire you for that, the insight and the courage that you had then. In those, no doubt you had moments of self-doubt, and no doubt you still have moments of self-doubt.
Oh yeah.
What do you do in those moments to build yourself back up?
So this is my motto: do it scared. Basically, there's going to be no time in your life where, you're just going to be 100% confident to just go about it and, whatever. But my motto is do it now and do it scared, because if you don't do it now, then you'll never be able to overcome it. I feel like confidence, a lot of people think that like, oh, you build it up, like it just happens overnight, or like that it's something that you like work on yourself. Like, no, it's actually confidence comes from doing stuff, meaning like this video thing would never have happened like a year ago. I was terrified of video. Honestly, so my very first video chat was last year, December. There was like a lot of people had been reaching out to me, and they were just like, hey, would like to have you on the show, and I would reject all of them because I was terrified. Wow. And basically Christmas time came around, and I had a lot of free time, and and 3 people in a row reached out to me, and I was like, you know what? I'm turning a leaf. I'm just going to do it scared. And so I signed up and I said yes to all 3. I scheduled them all on the same exact day, right after one another on 1-hour blocks. So I couldn't like say no. I was, done up. I was ready. I was like, all right. The first interview, I was shaking. Like my hands were down here like, and my voice was trembling too. The second one, my hands like stopped shaking. My voice was still a little bit trembly. But by the third one, I was like, all right, Elaine, like, I got this. Sorry to the first person who I did. My bad. Even the second one. But I was like, by the third one, I was like, okay. And then that's when I started building the confidence to like be okay in front of the camera, instead of being so nitpicky, instead of being like, oh, I hate my voice, or like just saying all these different things in your mind where it's like, no one's thinking that. They just want to hear you. They just want to know what you have to say, And so like getting over that fear of being on video. And actually I literally just emailed my list, and I was like, my email list, and I was like, what do you want to see from me this year? And I gave them a few options. I was like, do you want YouTube videos, podcasts, online courses? Like, what do you want? And Unfortunately, the majority of them said YouTube videos. And I was like, no, please. So honestly, like,
this is a universe again, more signs.
Right, exactly. I was like, why did it have to be that? Why not like podcast or something? Why, But I mean, you got to give them what they want. So basically, like, that's another thing that like this year I'm going to have to do. I'm going to do it scared. I don't know how to video edit. I don't know how to do all of the whatever, the microphone stuff, like, but I'm going to learn and I'm going to do it.
Awesome. Do it now and do it scared. I wrote that down because I really like that. Thanks for sharing that, because that's pretty easy to sink into. You might not like it. Those listening right now who makes you want to shit your pants, that means you know what it is you need to do, because it triggered something you're scared about that you're putting off doing. So yeah, in the words of Elaine, do it now, do it scared. And I think that it's really important for people to realize, listeners to realize, that it doesn't matter where you are in your journey, because you are continuing to grow and to do more, be more, expand, that you still are doing things scared. And I really like that example that you shared with us, because that makes it just so much more human and real, right? I had a therapist who I just really, really an important person in my life, more so a number of years ago, who said to me, when I was really living in a place of fear, shame, and guilt, he said, if you're not busy growing, you're dying. And so I was like, oh, wow, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it scared then, right? Because if the alternative is dying, well, wow. And I know it seems really quite, it really,
but it is.
But it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it is. So kudos to you for doing that. Kudos to you for even throwing that out there to your email list and including YouTube videos even on that as a list of options they could choose from, even though you were secretly hoping they wouldn't choose it. Like, good on you.
Yes.
Good on you. And I love all these examples, because this is how you do it, friends. This is how you face fear, is you simply do it. So do you know of Sunny Lenarduzzi?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so that's why I mentioned her, because you said YouTube. I mean, I thought that's someone that you definitely need to be paying attention to. The conference that I was in Hollywood. Yeah. You should check out my Instagram. There's a picture of me with Sunny. She was at the conference. Yeah, she was at the conference.
The Social Media Examiner conference.
No, it was a coaching conference in Hollywood. It was a brand your passions. It was called Passions to Profits. And specifically for coaches who are looking to turn their passion into profits. And I guess giving another shout out to Carolyn Soldo and her team. They really focus on, and I really love her model of coaching, because they focus on using technology to work for you even when you sleep, right? So you can take a break from your business, that your business doesn't own you. Mm-hmm. And how to use tools and automation to your advantage, so you can serve better, you can serve wholeheartedly, you can serve and you can serve more and focus more on that. So anyway, Sunny did a lot of work with Carolyn Soldo and her team, which is why for the annual event, she invited Sunny to come and be a speaker. And as you can imagine, she does not disappoint. So,
yep.
Yeah. Talk to me about rituals or sort of habits that are sort of like at the cornerstone of a successful day or routine for you.
So every day I drink my tea over here. It's a leaf tea. So it's black leaf tea. So it's like, I have a strainer and all that stuff. So that's the first thing I do in the morning. And then I normally get on a call or I email all of my interns and delegate the task. I realize that delegation is a huge strength of mine, which is what has also grown my brand like immensely. I mean, even from day one, I had a team of interns. And so I feel like I'm really good at sectioning off in my brain what needs to be done. And basically, if I don't want to do it, I delegate it instead of outsourcing. Like, honestly, like I could have done the whole outsourcing thing, but like the whole mentorship thing, I realized that something that I really craved outside of college was being a mentor to younger people. And so instead of being, I guess, paid for it, like I would rather have them work for me and then basically pay their dues as they're growing my brand, as they're growing their own skill set, and then come out into the world as a better person. So that's kind of like my philosophy. But why am I talking about that? Oh yeah, because that's so basically reach out to them. I also talk to them every Friday, and kind of talk about how the week went. But basically, I have like a general outline of what I want accomplished. I always put it in my phone. Block out time. If it pops up on my phone, I do it immediately. So it's just
you got some productivity hacks that work for you. What about self-care? What do you do to look after you?
I need to get better at that.
We're all
good question.
We're all a work in progress, Elaine, and that's okay. So
yes, honestly, like I just ask my husband for a massage every week, and he's like, you can only request it on Saturdays. I'm like, all right, fine. So like we come to like a mutual agreement. So instead of like going to the masseuse or whatever, like it's also time that we get to like enjoy with one another and stuff. But I mean that's how I care for myself, and also I love just watching movies with my husband. When he gets back home from work, then so, and after I'm done, probably like 8 p.m. Once I get tired. Then we just watch movies until it's time for bed. So it's like a time to de-stress, unwind, and like to get my mind off of just work, so that I won't be like constant. Because I realize I like to work all the way up until like I go to bed, and then I'm just like, oh my god, like what am I gonna do tomorrow, and it's just like it's terrible sleep. So basically, so that's kind of what I've started doing, is just relaxing.
Relaxing and connecting, right? There's all sorts of ways to connect with people that you care about, and certainly doing that with your husband is a way to connect with one another. I being a few years older than you, and got 4 boys, recognize that self-care, if that's not a priority, that certainly leads to burnout. And so that's something that I've kind of learned that the hard way in terms of getting to the point of burnout and cracking. But I'm a big proponent of that, because I do believe that in our society, especially with women, and I'm saying especially women because I don't get the male experience. So this is not to say, so those who are listening who are male, this is not to say you don't experience this. I just don't know if you do or not. I just know it's true for women that self-care is often seen as selfish. And they're not the same. And they're not the same at all. Okay, where do I want to go now? You were talking a bit about delegation being such a strength of yours, and that being a really key attribute to, or one of the key elements that you believe contributed to the success that you've experienced in your business. Are you able to, reflect and share with us a few other key things that you believe contributed to the growth and success of your business?
Consistency, 1,000%. I feel like this is how I like to explain it. Like, I mean, even from day one, I posted a brand new blog post on my blog every single day at 6 p.m. Every single day, like 365 days.
Wow.
Basically, I mean, that's such fresh content. That's such value to my audience. And I really believe that is the reason why it grew so fast. It's kind of like when you create a show, I feel like your personal brand, your brand, whatever is a show, people are watching. You might not know, but they're always watching. And so basically, if you don't show up, people are going to notice. It's like, if you come home from work and you're like, hey, I want to watch Arrested Development, let's say, and it's not on. And you're like, okay, let me just try again tomorrow. And then it's not on again. And you're like, all right, I'm done, right?
It's true.
Like people sometimes don't even give that, that extra chance. But if you show up and you're like, hey, audience, I'm here for you. I'm providing content for you. I'm going to be there for you every single day on social media, on the blog, on all aspects, like then they'll start recognizing you not only as a trustworthy person, but also as somebody that they can depend. Basically, that goes hand in hand. Somebody they can depend and rely upon with good information. And then all of a sudden, you're the expert after 2 years because you have so much content out there.
Right. I like that. Yeah, because ultimately people buy from who they like and trust.
Mm-hmm.
And being consistent and showing up and doing it now and doing it scared are all elements associated with that. So I can't believe that we are up. An hour has passed and I feel like we could have sat and chatted all day long. I so appreciate all of your time that you've shared with myself as well as my listeners today, and all of the gems and nuggets that you have shared through your life experience personally as well as in your amazing business. So a big thank you to you, Elaine, for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show. This is so fun.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you got over that fear, or you did it anyway. You did it scared, so that we had the opportunity to have you on video here as well.
That's like your new motto now. Yay!
I know, seriously, and I will credit you. I promise. I will credit you. So at this time, here we are at the end of another amazing show. I want to thank all of you, my loyal listeners, for joining me each and every week. As always, a big shout out to my producer at Contact Talk Radio Network, and that is Mr. Cameron Steele. And as I do each and every week, I want to encourage all of you to be brave, be bold, and be happy in pursuit of your dreams and goals. And in the words of Elaine, once again, final words for today: do it now and do it scared. Thanks, my friends, and we'll see you all next week, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. See you then. Bye.